Star Wars. We are a Star War. We are a Star War. Isn't that cool?
Hello there. My name is Corey, and I am a Star War.
Oh, hello again. And my name is also Corey, and I am also a Star War.
Well, hi there. My name is Jim, and I am a Star War también.
And we are a Star War.
And today we are going to talk about episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Andor. And
Andor.
And we will try our best not to veer off into Tales of the Jedi territory, which we just watched episodes 4, 5, and 6 of.
That's for later. That's for the next podcast.
That's for the next show. We should do that very soon.
Corey thinks that we should do it right after this one.
I need to watch them again, probably. So let's get into episode 4. Let's don't waste much time. I'll do a quick recap. I would like to shout out the YouTube channel, New Rock Stars. I enjoy their content, and I watch their breakdowns and Easter egg reveals the last couple of days on work. So as I was crafting my recaps, I used their show to kind of guide me. So they do nice recaps and nice Easter egg reveals, so shout out to them. So episode 4, let's give the recap. Let's go. Luthen takes Cassian to Aldhani. He's clearly done his homework on Cassian and knows almost everything there is to know about him. He gives Cassian a kyber crystal, and Cassian is introduced to a lady from the group. She's skeptical about adding him to the group, and Luthen basically tells her to get over it. He's part of the group. So cut to Cyril Karn and the others that were trying to bust Cassian in the first episodes. The three of them get fired on their from their jobs because they shouldn't have been doing some shit. They thought they were going to do something awesome.
They thought they were doing the right thing.
That's right. So then we see Dinder Miro. She realizes that the box that is missing is from her sector. That's the box that Cassian had.
And I just want to comment and say her saddle pants are amazing.
Roomy. There's a lot of room in there.
They're very roomy.
Okay. And then Cassian meets the rest of the group. Cyril returns to his mother's home. And this story goes on and on and on, and I really hope there's some sort of payoff happening there. Mon Mothma shows up at Luthen's shop, and she said that she has found someone to help them in their cause, and we realize that, Luthen's got this whole other sort of thing happening. We thought he was just out there flying around, but he's centrally based somewhere, apparently, and helping some shit out with Mon Mothma and them. And then the rest of the group learns about the eye that will give them cover to pull off their big heist that we'll see later in episode 6. So is there anything in particular you guys want to talk about from this episode?
Other than that one lady's pants? You know what I'm talking about, right? Like, she's got these riding pants. They're like poofy bloomers that kind of poof out.
Like the Mounties
She's got the
wear.
White jacket, the form-fitting white jacket, and then the tall black
not
leather
notice
boots,
that.
and then like these, and it's like an old, like, I don't know, they look like riding pants.
What I took it to mean is that in their spare time, the Imperials play polo on horseback.
Imperial polo it is.
Yes,
I think that's a great idea.
That's what they do.
Cricket.
In their spare time.
You think they're out there riding dewbacks and shit?
I think they
They
are.
are. Dewback polo.
You just made it. You just made some shit up, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to make a logo for that and start selling t-shirts.
There we go.
God damn it.
That's a side hustle.
I'm rich.
Side hustle.
I'm trying to quit my job. We need a side hustle.
So what I liked
Except
about this episode...
for the people that work with Corey that listen to this podcast, don't listen to him.
I don't know them. I really enjoyed the conversation they had right off the bat when Selvig was recruiting Andor. Like the
Luthen.
Luthen. What did I call him? Selvig. Oh, I call him Selvig in my notes a lot because that was his name in the MCU.
That's
Selvig.
right.
He's Dr. Selvig in the
Yep.
MCU. My bad.
I knew what you meant.
So sometimes I write Selvig.
This is a Star Wars show. I figured I might correct
There's
you.
crossover.
In fact, I think actually it was just for an hour, and then I remembered his name, and I changed it halfway through the notes. Yeah, I loved that, but I also loved all the Imperial stuff. Like the first 3 episodes, I was saying that like there is no Imperials in the show. It's corporate. That's cool, and that was cool. But now we've seen the corporate messed up in the eyes of the Empire, and now we're seeing the Empire come in and take over and be that boot on people's necks, and it's like, oh, this is what the Empire is bad for. Like,
right.
We don't necessarily see that side either in the fairy tale Star Wars saga. We don't see regular people being oppressed, and now we get to see it here, and it's wild.
And the thing that I love about what they're doing in Andor is, for the first time, I think the Empire seems really dangerous. Mm-hmm. Like seeing the machine and the bureaucracy and like that Monday meeting that those folks have at the ISB, like that's horrifying.
Yeah.
And so well written, and just it's what we needed, because that is real and spooky and can happen anywhere, not just in the Star Wars universe. And I love it. I'm here for it. Like, that's my favorite part so far, is seeing how damn evil the Empire is outside of Palpatine, because it's always been Palpatine's the one. Palpatine's the one. Vader's the enforcer. Nah, man, this shit is rotten from the inside out.
All the way down. Yeah. We see people there when they have that meeting, and at this point they're like in a bright white room. Their uniforms are all white. The tables are white. It's like, oh, we're just nice people. And the way that they talk, it sounds like bureaucracy. It just sounds like they're governing stuff. Mm-hmm. But then you kind of listen to what they're talking about, and they're talking about that one guy stands up and he's like, you know, what we do here is healthcare providers. He says, we look for sickness and illness, and then we destroy that illness. And it's like, okay, so that's like from their side of the thing. Mm-hmm. That's how they see their place in the universe, is we're just creating peace. But the way they create peace is quashing rebellion and free thought and murder and terror. You just don't really see it here. You see just like, oh, we're just governors having a meeting. Mm-hmm. I love that.
It's a little scary. Yeah.
Because it also, you immediately think like, that looks like Kushner. That guy looks like... There's Ivanka over there. Yeah. It's fascism.
I don't know that I ever remember Ivanka wearing those riding pants, though.
But she has them, though.
I digress.
So Corey, you got a page full of notes. Let's hear them.
Oh, but my notes are all just like, Selvig turns into a pimp. But his name isn't even Selvig, it's Luthen. I thought it was amazing where, like, you see him, he's just gruff guy. Andor, come on, we're going to do this.
Andor.
And then he goes and puts on a wig, and he's like, and turns into a whole different thing. And that's like, oh, the spycraft
And it was kind of like he was channeling Jeff Goldblum from
Grandmaster
from Ragnarok. Yeah. He was a little over the top, but I liked it.
Yeah, I loved it. It was funny. And then it's amazing when they would do the flip when they got to the back room, and they all of a sudden were like, okay, so anyway.
Flippy for real?
Yeah, they flip you for real. It was so good. I wrote down that they were hobbit walking across the mountains, because there was a lot of like, let's just walk through the grass and talk about how I don't trust you. Which was fine, because then there were TIE fighters that showed up. Those scenes where like everything seems like just normal people walking in a field, and then a TIE fighter comes by.
Fighters come by. Yep.
That's so cool.
That was impressive.
Yeah. The blonde Imperial chick that we're talking about with the pants. What's her name called?
I've got it listed as Dendra Miro, but it could be Dedra Miro.
Oh, I have no idea. Okay.
So George Romero.
Yes. Well, this could be dumb because I maybe was high, but she says something about like, oh, I have to investigate this. I just have a feeling. She says something about having a feeling or a gut instinct like 3 times. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that she's force sensitive? Because I've been trained by the sequel trilogy that Finn is like, hey, I have an idea. And that was all we got, and we were supposed to extrapolate that Finn has the force too.
Right.
Well, somehow Palpatine returned.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
So maybe that lady is force sensitive. That's all.
At the minimum, they did set up a nice duality between her and the dude from the corporate thing. I mean, she's chasing a lead, she's chasing a hunch, and you know it's going to pay off for her likely.
Yeah.
Right.
So, should we get into episode 5, or do you guys have anything else you want
I
to
have
touch
something
on?
I want to say about Luthen, but it can wait until the end.
No, say it.
All right. So he seems like he's got a different agenda than just rebellion. Like he's real angry about something. At least it seems that way to me. He's got a chip on his shoulder that seems to be personal beyond like Mon Mothma is more like Bail Organa. Like there's a virtuous, desire to overthrow the Empire because it's an evil place. Like Luthen seems like he's got an angle, a personal angle that I think I got no idea why, but I think it's connected to Palpatine. Like I think he knows Palpatine or knew. I don't know. Like I feel like there, and maybe I'm wrong. Like you said, I mean we're midway through the series, so it's just a hunch. But I feel like his reason for doing what he's doing is more than just
That's like his brother or some shit.
right, or his lover or something like that. Like I mean, Palpatine wouldn't have let that person live, but
Yeah, that's true.
something like I feel like there's more to his motivation than just topple the Empire.
Yeah, something's going on. You got to give him some sort of story.
I think
more than just-
right. I think we're going to learn more about him and his motivation.
The amount of work that he had clearly done to put this rebel group together,
and he's really good at it. Right? Like I mean, he's playing tactics and playing chess with people the way Palpatine played chess with people.
yeah.
Right? I mean, he's
Right.
he's doing some Machiavellian shit, and it's working so far anyway. I mean, the heist went over well, but that episode is to come.
Right. Well, let's get into episode 5. This one was called "The Axe Forgets." We'll get into that just a little bit before we get into the show. So, Skeen, the character, who we'll just call, he's the guy from The Bear. He's Richie from The Bear, if you saw The Bear. He's having a conversation with Cassian at one point in the show, and he says that the axe forgets, but the tree remembers. And so this implies that the oppressors forget their crimes, but the wounded do not forget, right? So the show starts off with Cyril and his mom talking, and it's obviously Cyril Karn is a victim of Cassian and what Cassian did in the first 3 episodes. Karn loses his job, et cetera, et cetera. But we know Cassian has been a victim in his life as well, with the way he was brought up and such. So the show starts with Cyril and his mom, and this is just driving me fucking insane, and I really hope there's a payoff there. And then Cassian finds Skeen going through his stuff one morning when he wakes up. We see a big conversation between Nemik and Skeen and Cassian one morning around a fire, and we learn quite a bit about Nemik there. He's the young guy in the group. And then Lieutenant Gorn or Gorin, I can never figure out exactly how they're pronouncing it. There's a big scene with him arriving at the temple and checking things out. That the temple is where all the pilgrims will go to see the big finale in episode 6. And then we see the rebels practicing marching. Cassian points out where everyone should stand based on their hand preference, like who's left-handed, who's right-handed, which I thought was pretty slick. Like, you should stand on this side because you're left-handed.
And that was kind of his way of establishing his bona fides to the group because it was a good idea.
Right. Yeah, it was legit. And then Skeen tries to take the Kyber crystal from Cassian. Cassian says that he's just there for the money, which Jim said was... I think that's the scene you were talking about before we started recording. Skeen later tells Cassian about his brother and their farm and why his brother killed himself. Supposedly, the Empire had flooded the valley, wiped out their farm. His brother decided to off himself in the process. And the 2 women of the group split off.
He didn't want to deal with the insurance claim.
Right. Something. So the 2 women of the group split off. They're on like a little separate side quest, if it were. And then
Wink, wink.
One of the Easter eggs in the show that shout out to new rock stars on YouTube that they pointed out. On Luthen's shelf at one point in his shop, we see the Sankara stones from Temple of Doom in the background, and then there's also a block of carbonite that has Indiana Jones's whip and the idol.
And I'm pretty sure behind the block of carbonite is a coffee mug that says "I'm Kaiser Sose."
And world's best boss. So what do y'all think? Episode 5, where this was a nice 3-episode arc, and there's a lot that kind of goes on here in episode 5.
Corey, what you got on them notes?
Well, this episode was the setup for the heist. So
Yes.
we learn his mission is the heist in the last episode. This episode, it's just setting up the team, feeling each other out, everybody finding. My favorite part was when Skeen and him are talking about like his tattoos and all that, and he's like, "Oh, I was in this," and it sounded like they were talking a lot like boys' homes and kind of juvenile prison sort of stuff.
Gotcha.
That's what it sounded, because one of them, he said, I was there from 13 to 16 or something. So it's like it just, to me, it gave like a window, and again, another window into what it's like to be alive, to be a kid on a planet who the Empire comes and wipes it out, so they stick you in an institution somewhere, and then you turn into a criminal.
And to kind of dive off of that point, even though I know you don't care for the story arc that's going along with dude and his mom, what's his name?
Karn.
Karn and his mom Korn.
Kark.
It's Kark. Is that her name?
His name is Kark. Kark has mommy issues, is what I wrote down.
Karn.
Karn?
I think it's Karn.
Well, that dude.
On the other page, it was Karn. Now it's Kark.
So if you think about how utterly oppressive it is to live with her, right? If you allow yourself to empathize with his position, it's horrible, right? Like, they live on Coruscant, right? But they're not moneyed per se. They don't live on the basement levels. They live high enough that they can see the sky. But like, it's.
But I think it was very obvious in the last episode when he got home. It's like you see him land on Coruscant, which you're like, oh, this is so awesome and cool and futuristic. But then he gets in an elevator, and it does get very.
It does
dark.
Go down. You're right. It does
it
get
gets
dark.
very dark by the time he gets home, and
You're
it's
right.
like, oh, he's not.
Right, but
He's not Jedi Temple level.
They're grasping at greatness.
Yes,
and he was grasping at greatness in the first episode when they introduce his character, and he's trying to outshine his boss and solve the crime. And now, she's grasping at greatness too.
She's trying to live through him and make sure, like, you need to be successful, so we're successful.
And to me, that just shows another perspective of the oppression of the Empire. But I think that same kind of angling would have been she clearly was living in that mid-story, mid-tower condo during the Republic too. Mm-hmm. And that's like getting back to Luthen. Who was Luthen in the Republic? He didn't just spring out of nowhere. He lost something and is real pissed off about it. And so, like, yes, I do hope that there's more to come from that story arc, and we are going to kind of get that in 7 and 8. But to me, that was there to show another layer of just the oppression of the Empire, and just there's just too many people. Bill Burr was right. 85% of them got to go. Bill Burr was a little more aggressive than Thanos, but I digress. That's the point of the podcast.
Dwight Schrute said we need we need another plague.
Yes.
Be careful, Dwight. We got one.
Yeah, I mean, we literally almost got one we did get one a couple of years ago, but so yeah, you got more notes on 5?
No. I took remarkably few notes.
The other
on
thing
5.
that I wanted to say to that point where Cassian is talking to the dude from the bear, the whole line about, I'm here to win and go home, the way he says it in that moment was just so simple and clean, and it made me think of when you think about A New Hope, and you think about the hero's journey, and like just the cleanliness of Luke's arc in that movie, and they blow up the Death Star, and they go home, and they get a medal at the end of the day, and it's just so mythological and fun and just so clean. And then this show is literally this is the substrate beneath the asphalt that Luke drives on, right? Like, this show is about people without power trying to.
But even if you think about it, at some point in all of that, Han is just like, I'm just here because I'm trying to get paid,
Right.
right? So Han is even that character in.
But then,
right.
But
those
then
movies.
he gets redempted.
Sure.
Redempted. He gets redempted.
He gets redemptivized.
I knew it.
And you know what he does? He flies away in the Millennium Falcon.
Listen,
He do.
it's called the Millennium Falcon now. This is new.
This is new for the Star Wars
And this
verse.
is canon, and we need everybody to recognize that.
Hey, those Facebook ads that pop up and they say Star Wars has finally explained blah blah blah. I hate it when they do that.
I also hate the.
I'm like there's
the
a
one
Star
thing
Wars is
that
a
is
thing?
going to correct Palpatine. The one thing that's going. Fuck off with the one thing.
You're right. You're right.
Can we name this episode "Fuck Off with the One Thing"?
No,
Yeah,
it's
fuck off
called
with the one thing.
Corey and Corey Go for a Ride in the Millennium Falcon.
All right, episode 6. Nimmick and Cassian
For
have
the
a
two of you
discussion.
still listening, we love you, by the way.
Love you.
We do. Nimmick and Cassian have a discussion to start the show. Nimmick is super nervous about what they're fixing to try to pull off that evening. We see the pilgrims are heading to the temple. Lieutenant Gorin greets the pilgrims, and they kind of have a very it's filled with tension. Their little exchange there.
It made
They
me.
don't like
It
each
made
other.
me think of like, when our army was going to meet with the elders in Afghanistan, right? Like it was a weird, and I'm not saying anything. It just felt that way, like just the collision of culture on that staircase right there was really, really cool and
Yeah.
really well done.
Yeah, this episode really shows a lot of like what it means to be an empire.
Yeah.
And to displace cultures everywhere you go.
And
it was
and to
scary
be
as
fair
shit.
to the Empire at that moment in time in the story, they were being permissive and accepting of within their. I'm not making excuses for the Empire,
Basically,
but like,
people they ran off of their land.
but they were,
Right.
but they were like, all right, we don't want any trouble. So if they're going to come up once a year to watch the sky fireworks, then
But they have plans where they're like, yeah, there used to be thousands of them. Ha ha.
Right.
Now we only have 100.
right,
Next year,
and now
next
and
year
they
there
have,
won't be any.
right, and they have the
And they'll
viewing
be
box.
fine.
They have the viewing box. They have the
Right.
box seats for the thing. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
I jumped the gun.
So then Gorin leads the rebellion squad
There are
into
no rules.
formation. So we see him kind of leading his little rebellion squad there, and it's kind of awesome to see them working together. And then we see J-Hold get taken over by the rebels, and the shower kind of starts. And then all this is kind of interplaying together. The rebels get inside the vault to get all the credits. The credits injure Nimmick on the ship. As they're trying to get away, they all slide back and kind of crush him. And this was a shout out to the new Rockstars YouTube that I wrote this down. He was like, oh, that equates to the crushing weight of capital, which I thought was kind of neat. Little shit like that I would never think about. So then Nimmick's navigator, which he had been kind of hyping up as untraceable and all that stuff, it's the thing that helps get them out of the eye, right? So they get out with
Right.
the coordinates, and the fucking TIE fighters behind them get crushed.
Yeah, they get lit up.
So and then
So cool.
Then Skeen says, "Hey, we've got to get Nimmick to a doctor." So they take him to a doctor, Quadpaw,
Dr. Quadpaw.
with 4 arms.
Yes.
He looks like
has 4
Maz
arms.
Kanata from
He does.
the new trilogy, right? And then Skeen tries to split the money with Cassian, and he says that he made up the story about his brother. Cassian is like, nah, fuck you, cuz, and then shoots him because he knows what's up. And then Cassian goes inside to find that Nimmick didn't make it through the surgery. And as a token of good faith to Val, I can never figure out how they're saying her name, he gives her his Kyber crystal and says he just wants his part of the money. He's not trying to get anything extra. He says, hey, Skeen was trying to get all this money and split it, and you should know. And I killed him, so he ain't there no more.
Killed.
And
You killed
then
him.
she
Killed him dead.
gave Nimmick's manifesto to Cassian, and then it ends in Luthen's shop, and he hears I guess it's a radio signal that's calling
Which Corey
out.
Martin has a lot to talk about. But actually, that's in episode 7, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
We're going to get to the newspaper in a second, in our next
So
episode.
it kind of ends on Luthen's little solo celebration in his store, where he's all happy.
We
that-
might call
yeah.
it a happy dance.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about? I thought this was clearly the best episode of the 3.
It was a great payoff,
Yes.
and I was surprised that Imperial credits were like hard assets and not just like Bitcoin.
Right. It was,
But you have notes, so I
Well, no.
want to hear your notes.
No, it was cool to see that it's like, oh, here's a room full of gold.
It was right.
Basically.
Yeah.
Gold. Yeah, I do think this was the best episode. I think that like these three could be a movie. You know, that's about the same amount of time, and this would have been the climax, which was cool because
this was definitely
the
Act 3.
eye going over, that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the overtones of like racism and like displacing indigenous people and all that stuff that was embedded in this, I freaking loved. The guy who is there in bed, who's not named Korg, what's his name? He's like the
crystal meth.
Yeah, well, the one that is like the colonel or whatever,
Yeah.
and he's like their guy on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So we find
Gorn.
So you find
Crystal
out
meth.
that Gorn came to that planet and fell in love with one of the indigenous women, and then I think they just said lost her. I don't know if she was killed or whatever. But then, like, I didn't pick up on that the first time I watched it, and I saw it the second time, and then he has all these encounters where he's talking to different people, and the guy's like, oh yeah, they're coming, you can smell them, right? Like, they're all talking like in the worst, like, racist ways about the people who live in this sacred valley.
Whose planet that they're on.
Yeah, who they're like engineering on how to eradicate. And just the way that they talk about them, the way they're so dismissive of it, the way they're like, oh yeah, this is their sacred valley. Who cares? Next year we're going to pave over this and put in whatever they're about to build there. And they're happy with their little reservation that we gave them down at the other end of the mountain. Like, it's so like sickening to see it happening, because you're like, that's kind of what happened here. Like, it sucks, and I hate it. And it was really well done. And that the fact that the Gorn like gets to eventually like turn around and be like, yeah, this is what's up, and like stand up and say how he really feels to all of his coworkers and everything that he's been fighting with. I loved that part of it. They also had, when they're doing the little like ceremony where they're like handing fur back and forth, and like the Imperial dude like obviously doesn't care, but then the indigenous dude is like, you don't care, I don't care either, screw you, and he takes it and throws it in the fire and whatever. And he tells them in their native language, he says, tell him our ghosts have strong hands and long memories.
That's a good line.
And that's the thing that Gorn like mistranslates. He's like, they said they're happy to be here or whatever, and the guy like looks at him like, that's not what I said. That was awesome. I love that part. One of my favorite. And the guy's name's Quad Paw because he has 4 paws.
What was your favorite part?
I mean, I thought visually it was really, really good. I kind of like the ruthlessness of Cassian when he realizes what's happening with Skeen, and he's like, got to put it into this, dog.
Yeah. He doesn't
You're not
think.
ruining this.
But right, and it wasn't because he disagreed with what the dude had to say. It wasn't because he was being overly virtuous about protecting the money for the cause. He didn't want that guy to fuck up his out.
Yeah.
And he's about to be done with this particular thing, and he wants out of there, and he's done with it, and he was standing in his way.
Get the money, wash your hands.
Han did not shoot first. Cassian shot first.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. That's
the difference between
that's
those
another
two.
T-shirt. Listen, we're going to make a whole goddamn lot of money.
Corey Martin's got a business plan.
I have a t-shirt
and for
business.
the 2 of you listening, we're relying on you.
Look for the link on our
You will
website.
be a part of the VIP club.
Jim, you don't have notes, but like, what are your thoughts on it?
I am a Star Wars.
Jim, what is swimming around in that mind of yours?
Well, I like Star Wars, and
Go on.
I really like this. I like the way the show is written. It's just like the issues that I had with pacing in the Obi-Wan show. I'm not having with this show.
I'm hella having those in this.
For me, like I don't mind just sitting there watching 2 people have a conversation about healthcare for the Empire, or it's just that there's not a lot of pew 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 in this show, and I kind of like that. I like that a lot of the conflict is coming from You know, the interpersonal dynamics, the Machiavellian. I mean, this is the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy of the Star Wars world, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening in the Cyril Karn story, and it's...
Have you watched 7 and 8?
I did, but it's still dragging ass.
He's the only one that knows that is championing the light of Cassian Andor as being the one who killed the 2 guys on the corporate planet in the red light district. So he's the one, you know, he was fired for that. He was told by his mom, stay in your lane, right? He was disgraced because he lost his corporate position. He's not letting that go, right? And so he's going to get this job, and we're bleeding a little bit into 7 and 8, but he's going to be the one that I think connects Cassian to the Empire, to the ISB. Well, Luthen, we've already heard, well, that might be 7 too, but like...
He's starting to get a little worried.
Well, Cassian knows who Luthen is. He's seen his face. And so Cassian, at least as of right now, all the noise that they made with the heist... Hi, Avi. That's my dog. She's whining because she wants the cat to come play with her. But I think Luthen is got a problem with Cassian and was maybe sort of hoping that Cassian wasn't going to make it through the heist. He needed Cassian's skills to pull off the heist because he needed the money.
Yeah, Cassian was the one that kind of let him know what was happening because they were talking about weight displacement and stuff on the escape, and he realized that they didn't know what they were talking about. He's like, wait, you got to put this all in there.
Yeah, that was a great scene where he was like, what were you going to do if I wasn't here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's smart.
If I had one complaint about this show, there was something that was teed up. It was very easy for them to knock out of the park, and they didn't do it. And that's right before the heist. Part of it was that the 2 women like knocked out all the comms and all the whatever. And so then there's a scene where there's people sitting in their Imperials, and they've got all their, you know, monitors and whatnot. And they're like, I don't know. I lost whatever. I can't find this. They could have had one guy say, I've lost the beeps, I've lost the creeps, and I've lost the sweeps. One dude to say that, and then you go on.
Just casually.
Just one little Spaceballs
That's got right.
Easter egg.
That's got a little Spaceballs, and that would be great.
That's all I wanted.
So, I mean, do you guys have more thoughts about these, or do you want to do the wrap-up segment for the show?
I'm.
Wait, weren't we going to have other segments?
Well, that's what
We
I
have
was just asking
segments.
you about.
We have segments.
We have ideas.
Partitions of thoughts, compartmentalized ideas. And I'm good to talk about... this is a free-flowing Star Wars podcast with 3 buttholes just talking about Star Wars.
Well, the wrap-up segment I was talking about was Jim decided, and I think this is a great idea, that we should each have... We should reflect upon a memory from our childhood that makes us think about Star Wars.
Because y'all have... If you're our age, if you guys grew up with this the way we did, you've got stories.
Right. Well, it was your idea, so I think you should go first.
I don't want this to be like a big thing, but like for me, I remember very specifically burying my X-Wing in mud. Like I would get the garden hose out, lived in Tampa, and so here in Alabama the dirt is red clay, but in Tampa it's real sandy, and I'd get a good slurry going, and I would bury that X-Wing and just reenact the scene from Empire, from Dagobah, and I loved doing that. And you brought up the point about the toys were our way of reenacting. You share that,
right? Because I think that gets lost with these youngsters,
these young kids.
And we can just pick up a stick and watch the whole trilogy if we wanted to all the time, because we didn't even have when we were children, we didn't even have video.
No.
So these movies came out, and every once in a while they might be like the Sunday night show on ABC or something, but it would, be all edited and weird and on your little tiny TV. So like you saw it in the theater, and then that's it. Like you go home, you get as many toys as mom will get you, and then you reenact it in your house, and that's how you keep it alive in your head. because you didn't have a DVD to watch. You didn't have streaming.
Right.
You didn't have any of it.
You went outside, you got the garden hose, and you buried your X-Wing, and
Yeah.
you reenacted your favorite scenes from the movie. What about you? What's one for you?
So one that I think is fairly entertaining, and I want to shout out my old buddy Willie Lyons, who I grew up with, went to Powell, and then all the way through college. Willie and I met in kindergarten, and we were both huge Star Wars fans. And I don't know
that's
if it was for the fact that we didn't want to bring our figures to school or what, but we would take on the back of the Star Wars figure card, right? They had a pictures of all of the figures that were available in the series, and they were tiny, tiny, tiny pictures. We would take those cards and cut those out and make little scenes on the playground at school with those little tiny.
See, that's
tiny
awesome.
pictures.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. And as long as I've known you, I've never heard that before.
You're full of shit.
I swear to God, I've never heard that.
For real?
I promise. Now, we've had a couple of drinks in our 25
Yeah,
years,
that's true.
27 years of knowing each other, so
Yeah.
there's a good chance I've forgotten.
That was a good one. Shout out Willie Lyons. When we were in high school, we ended up in art class again together. We weren't like close buddies at that time, but like elementary school, Willie and I were fucking close, man. And so we got into high school and we were in art class, and like I had kind of gotten away from Star Wars and all that stuff because I was into music and I was like just trying to be a fucking rock star. And Willie always painted goddamn Star Wars scenes, and he was just always making these original scenes with like X-wings and TIE fighters and shit. And
do you
He's
know where
great.
Willie is now?
He's somewhere in the shoals. Yeah, we're Facebook.
I was going to
friends.
say, is Willie working for like Lucasfilms now?
I don't know. Willie's we're Facebook friends, and he posts about Star Wars still quite
Well,
frequently.
that's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
it's awesome. Shout out Willie Lyons.
Way to go, Willie.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, how about you, Sideburns?
I have a thing. I have an older brother who was born in 1970, Travis. So he's 7 when the first one comes out. So
Which is a great age.
Oh, it's a perfect age. So he's a big Star Wars guy too. And so when I was a kid, my big brother had the better Star Wars toys than me. Like he had the Hoth playset, and I may have had.
Ooh la la.
Yeah. And I may have had a couple of toys, and maybe I don't know if I even had a vehicle for Star Wars. No, that's not true. I had the Snowspeeder. But I can remember he had the Hoth playset, and it was like a big white thing with like all these little paths you walk through the snow. And so one year we got like a new television, and when we took it out of the box, and it had those big white pieces of styrofoam.
Oh, yes.
So I made my own little Hoth.
That's the move.
Playset.
baby.
Yes.
That's the
Heck
move.
yeah.
That's what you do. I remember using styrofoam to
Yeah.
do similar things, and because
And that
I didn't
piece of
have no Hoth
styrofoam,
playset.
I had it for years. Like that was my favorite Star Wars toy, and it was a piece of garbage.
You know what? The Earth still has that piece of styrofoam
Yeah, it's still
somewhere.
and it still has my little guy's footprints in it.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. So yeah, that was. I mean, I was just thinking, like, you know, for we as a Star Wars fan, we're living in the golden age. Love them or hate them, you know, whatever the issues are. It's just really great that we've got new Star Wars stories. But like, we have our own memories. Like, there's a reason why we're watching this shit as a bunch of 40-year-olds. It's connected very strongly to our childhood, and I got 1,000 different stories about toys and you know, making lightsabers out of cardboard tubes, just like everybody else does.
Remind me,
yes.
I've got a lightsaber story about my brother and I that
let's save that for the next one. But
because
you know,
I'll forget. But y'all remind me that's my next story.
so the two of
Stay
you that are
tuned.
listening, please remind Corey to tell us the story about lightsabers and his brother.
So, yeah, I mean, episode 9 comes out
Mañana?
tomorrow. We'll probably release this on Thursday, so it's probably been out for a day. But very, very soon, as soon as possible, schedules permitting, we'll record another episode either about 7, 8, and 9, or we'll go ahead and recap Tales of the Jedi before that's too old. So we'll figure that out here sooner rather than later. You guys have any final thoughts before we wrap her up for the day?
No.
This Andor is written and made very well, and I thank them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Andor.
Yes, have some. Well, that'll do it for this week. Thank you guys. Be sure to follow us on Instagram.
The Insta.
We are not on Twitter. We are on Facebook. You can follow us. Just look up on Instagram. We are a Star War.
And I think maybe, and I'm just springing this on these two right now, but I think maybe that might be the place where we ask you guys, our audience, which T-shirt design we should do first.
Holy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sensing that Corey has a lot of ideas.
He does, and they're good.
And tell us where to put them, because
step 3 is I quit my job because we have sold so many T-shirts.
yeah, that would be ideal, because we both have jobs we would like to quit.
Come on, y'all.
So yeah,
Support your local-
Y'all do too.
Support your local podcaster.
y'all give us a follow, and be sure to follow the Alabama Take on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That's sort of our hub for our network of podcasts.
I got one final thought before we do the sign off, and it's kind of in line with what we were just talking about. So,
boy.
I've already told you this part.
Okay.
We've got 2 episodes that we've published, right? 2 podcasts, right?
Sure.
Well, you're the one that published them.
I mean, I don't know. Well, it's been a while.
This is number 3 that
This
we're
is the
recording.
third
This is the
episode.
third one. This is the Return of the Jedi of our series.
Hey!
Oh.
So the first,
I got the green saber, bitch.
So yes, you do. So the first episode, we got, more listeners than we thought we would. Well, one of those listeners was Susanna's dad. And
Shout out Randy.
shout out to Randy.
Yo, Randy.
So Susanna tells me last night, so my dad listened to the podcast, and the first thing I said was, "Oh no." And she says, he listened to it, and then he told me, I don't think that's going to be very profitable for them.
Listen,
And Randy, you're probably right. That's not the goal. The goal is for the 3 of us to get together and to make time to spend some time together and talk about Star Wars and share that with people. But you are probably very correct.
No.
It's not going to stop us from trying.
I think that's our first review.
I think that is.
Randy is not
That's our first
probably
review.
right. He is totally right.
Yeah, he's totally right.
This is the thing. We're just 3 buttholes talking about Star Wars.
Just 3 buttholes.
This is 3 buttholes.
This is a live action group chat.
This is 100% a live action group chat. The episode recaps are for y'all because we do that without the recaps. But other than that, this is what the text thread sounds like.
Yeah. So I mean, look, I ain't mad at it. He's right.
No, but I mean, I still think the T-shirt idea is pretty cool. I mean, I'll buy one.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm for it.
it's a T-shirt empire
T-shirt
that I
empire.
am building.
Well, we would appreciate the follows
Yes.
on Instagram and Facebook, and be sure to leave us Apple Podcast reviews. I think I've been told that's one of the best ways you can support a podcast, is because
I'll tell Randy to go leave his review.
I mean, leave a positive review.
Write it down, Randy.
So
Well, I mean, he still enjoyed it, but
Let them see it.
I enjoyed it, but I don't think it'll be profitable.
I don't think this is going to be very profitable for them.
Signed, Randy. Well, thanks to you guys, and we hope to be back with you sooner rather than later for another episode of We Are a Star Wars.
Star Wars. We are a Star War. We are a Star War.
Isn't that cool?